move into decks like Bug and Jund is to just try to outgrind one another, and Punishing Fire is one of the best conventional tools to do that. Also has some value in some other matchups like we're about to see here against Jacob Montano and his Merfolk deck.
Yeah, it certainly can't hurt here. Taking a look at Jacob's deck list, he is on the left for you guys. 4 Lord of Atlantis, 4 Master of the Pearl Trident, 4 Silvergill Adept, 4 Curse Catcher, 4 Marrow Regery, 3 copies of Phantasmal Image. Punishing Fire is going to be real nice against that one. 1 Coral Helm Commander, and then his spells are 3 Standstills, 3 Daze, 4 Aether Vial, 4 Forceful, a Dismember and a Spell Pierce, and your traditional mana base of 12 Violence, 4 Mutavaults, and 4 Wasteland. So a pretty stock Merfolk deck here, Patrick.
Yeah, and Merfolk was a deck that we actually saw kind of a resurgence of a little bit back when Reanimator was the new hot deck.
Yep.
Merfolk has a pretty good natural game against Reanimator and combo decks in general, just by having a clock plus Force of Will. Also, this was a deck that could very easily incorporate Phantasmal Image. Phantasmal Image might have been correct to be playing in Merfolk the entire time. You have tons of good stuff to copy, and it's good off your vial, which you want to keep on to anyway.
Yep.
The fact that you could also use Phantasmal Image to Legend Rule Reanimation targets or Show and Tell targets was just extra gravy. And so when Reanimator and Show and Tell were the big decks, Merfolk picked up in popularity. It subsided since those two decks have moved a little bit out of the metagame, but clearly Merfolk's basic skeleton still very powerful. We saw a lot of combo decks during the earlier rounds of this tournament. Merfolk preys on those, and so no surprise to see a copy of it in the top 8.
Yeah, as you do see both players taking a look at the deck list here. Owen taking a look at Jacob's, Jacob taking a look at Owen's, and Owen's is in front of us as well. 4 Tarmogoyfs, 3 copies of Punishing Fire, 4 Deathrite Shamans, 4 Dark Confidants, 3 Bloodbraid Elves, 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, a handful of Lightning Bolts to go along with some Thoughtseizes, some Lilianas, 3 Hymns, 1 Unzawa, and 1 Sylvan Library. And his mana base is pretty traditional, but he does have those 4 Grove of the Burn Willows and 3 copies of Wasteland.
And Abrupt Decay was another reason you sort of saw Merfolk subside a lot in recent months. It's the most powerful card in Merfolk, bar none, is Aether Vial. It capitalizes on Aether Vial better than any deck in the format, and its draws when it has Vial versus when it doesn't have Vial are night and day. And when you can't even protect your Vial with counter spells, the deck plays much more just like a curve of blue creatures and some Force of Wills, which isn't quite the same power level as how we think of Merfolk.
Yeah. And, this is a deck that is, it's not designed to beat Merfolk, but incidentally it seems as though it's very, very good against it. I mean, you can look at a lot of different reasons for that with Punishing Fire, with Abrupt Decay, with Tarmogoyf just being a huge thing that Merfolk has some trouble getting through. But the other one that is kind of interesting here is that, when you're playing Merfolk, you'd like to be playing against a blue deck to be able to swim across their islands. Can't do that here.
Yeah, this Jund matchup is tough, and when we get to the sideboard, it doesn't get any easier either. So
never does. So as both players are shuffling here and taking a look at each other's deck lists, we do appreciate you guys joining us right now. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan in the booth. You can join the conversation with us at SCG Live. Hashtag your comments with SCGATL. Interact with us as we do work to crown our champion here.
Yes.
Second of the day, Brian Braunduan did make top 8 of the Standard Open. Actually ended up losing in the finals this morning. Doesn't matter. Just kept on battling.
Yep, kept trucking.
Yeah, made the top 8.
Much to the chagrin of Brad Nelson, who was looking to leave this tournament hours ago.
I am sorry. Play Bradley, get rewarded. That's what they say. And that's what's going on, as Brian just kept on winning.
So I believe Jacob will be on the play here.
Get confirmation on that. Jacob will be on the play. He is the higher seed.
This is our 4-5 match.
Yes. Jacob our 4, Owen our 5. Let's see if both players are going to keep their hands. We're going to see a mulligan apiece. So not underway just yet. Thinking of the ways that Jacob can actually win this matchup, it's going to involve a pretty quick start, I think. But I think, one of the keys here is that he's going to have to be able to make his lords into 3/3s off the bat.
Yeah, I was about to make that exact same comment. The best way that he can actually turn this into something of a fair fight is by turning off Punishing Fire. I still think, even in that world, he's probably a little bit behind. But at least he's got a puncher's chance. To do that, he's going to have to get 2 lords in play, and it can't be through Phantasmal Image, because that can be broken up by Punishing Fire. So if he's able to get a couple Lord of Atlantis or Master of the Pearl Tridents into play, then we can actually have a game. So,
and a card that might play an important role here as well, a card that, has fallen out of flavor in Merfolk decks is Standstill. It's just a way for him to generate some card advantage. This take on Jund does have a lot of card advantage built into it, with Punishing Fire plus Grove of the Burn Willow is the obvious one, but Bloodbraid Elf, of course, and Dark Confidant, a card that once it does resolve, outside of this one Dismember, it's a card that Jacob can't actually get off the board, so I think Standstill is going to play a pretty big role here too.
Yeah, for Jacob to win the match, basically standstill has to be good anyway because he needs to be ahead on the board.
Yep.
He can also play it naturally because there's no Mutavaults or Treetop Villages or anything like that, so he can play it on an empty board, and he's going to need that card advantage really to have a shot here.
And so we are underway here, our quarterfinal match. Island from Jacob, Verdant Catacombs from Owen. And we do see Jacob draw an Aether Vial. You're a little late, but better late than never.
Yep.
And we are going to start off with the Lord of Atlantis.
And not willing to bolt there. Owen's trying to play a slower game and try not to care about days.
Yeah. And, you know, with Lightning Bolt in his hand, he does have lands as well. No reason to run to a daze there. He should get that Lord off the table. Make it so that he, again, cannot make his Lords into 3/3s. You know, that pressure point would make things a little bit more difficult for Owen. And you are going to see Wooded Foothill sacrificed as well.
And, of course, Owen aware of the presence of Wasteland in Merfolk, and he'll try to get as many basics as possible.
And we saw this a little bit earlier from Owen in the other match that we had him on camera, very cognizant of Wasteland. And the Jund deck does have one of each basic, so those fetch lands aren't going to have much trouble finding them.
Yep. And so we're just going to bolt.
Yep. No reason to get cute, just get things taken care of and just move right along.
Some good pacing so far from Owen. I mean, it's a small thing. It's not the most complicated thing, but being conscious of, you know, it's going to be hard for Jacob to beat me if I just don't play into the soft permission.
Yep.
Because he has a finite number of real cards, real in quotes.
As we do see a Marrow Reejerey here from Jacob. We're going to see a Thoughtseize to start the turn for Owen. Find out what's going on over there from Jacob. You already see him get the sheet of paper ready. You see a Wasteland, a second Lord of Atlantis, and a Aether Vial.
So I assume we take Lord of Atlantis out of this hand. Because the Vial, not worth very much, obviously, with no creatures in hand. We can bolt here and Wasteland the Mutavault, be under no pressure, and then land Dark Confidant next turn at a high life total, be able to ride that to victory.
Yep. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Wasteland takes care of the Mutavault, Lightning Bolt takes care of the Marrow Reejerey. Jacob has a second Aether Vial to go along with that Wasteland. You can tell he's in a little bit of trouble. I mean, you do have to cast him, of course.
You can't take him with you.
Yep. Play Wasteland does just pass the turn back, maybe bluffing, some sort of counterspell, daze, or what have you. But again, not going to have much effect on the game. You've already seen Owen begin to play around those cards, and he does play a Taiga here and a Dark Confidant to play around daze. The interesting thing, of course, here is by playing Taiga instead of Grove of the Burn Willows.
Yeah.
Grove being the more important of the two red-green land. So I do like that play as well.
He's not trying to really beat down Jacob. He's happy to gain a little bit of life because Punishing Fire is so disastrous for Jacob if Owen's able to find it. He's willing to give up a little bit of equity there to ensure that Grove is, that Punishing Fire rather is devastating.
We'll see a Master of the Pearl Trident there from Jacob, still holding on to that second Aether Vial. Owen is going to reveal Bloodbraid Elf, draw a Wasteland for the turn, and start to plan things out here.
And Bloodbraid is by far the worst reveal there.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, all Owen really wants to draw is spot removal and Tarmogoyfs and Deathrite Shamans, that kind of stuff.
Yep. And, you know, one thing that's important in this matchup and, you know, all matchups of Magic, you need to know, you know, if you're the aggro deck, if you're the control deck, and what roles you can afford to play. And you can tell, as you're going to see a Thoughtseize here, Owen's going to take 2 more to get rid of that Aether Vial, is that Owen knows that he's the control deck, and he's playing as such.
Yeah, and that sequencing right there is, you know, that Jacob got rewarded there for not casting his... Jacob got rewarded right there for not casting that Aether Vial. Inducing a Thoughtseize out of Owen was way more valuable than that second Aether Vial in play.
Yeah. So Island passed the turn back, and now we have a Bloodbraid Elf on an empty board. No cards in hand. Punishing Fire.
Ugh. And remember, we still got...
He has Grove looming in his hand. So Jacob is going to pass back, and now Owen is turning things around.
Now we have Liliana the Veil. I mean, we're just locking him out from every angle.
Yep. We're going to start here. And he does a little, you know, wants to make sure he doesn't do anything wrong here because the Vial is on 2. So, you know, Jacob could Vial something into play. So there's a little bit of consideration of, do I play the Liliana? You know, how do I want to go about doing this? We're probably just going to see the discard effect here. Yep. And it's Daze that bites the dust. Jacob going to take a draw. Going to pass the turn back. Owen going to give Jacob a life to get that Punishing Fire back. And
What a generous dude.
yeah, very, very nice guy. Good young kid.
Yeah.
Dark Confidant the draw step here, and you can tell now, as you said, attacking from all angles and in complete control of this game.
Yeah.
Jacob's going to discard a Force of Will. Owen going to discard his Punishing Fire. A bit of a combo, as it were. Going to cast Dark Confidant and pass the turn back.
Not much Jacob can do from this spot. I mean, basically every angle is cut off.
Yeah, his life total may not be 0 right now, but it effectively is, because I can't imagine a way for him to get out of this situation. Again, all his merfolk are going to be 2 toughness or less, because Curse Catcher and Silvergill Adept. So Punishing Fire is going to always be able to take care of him. And again, with Owen at 10 life, there isn't a series of cards he can actually run into with Dark Confidant.
Yeah. Jacob can't get out of this without a saturation of threats, and it's impossible for him to build up a saturation of threats with Liliana in play. Additionally, he's okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he's dead in 2 turns.
Okay. And so you saw him play the Core Helm Commander, activated once, activated again. Owen said, "I'm going to kill it with Punishing Fire." And he said, "Okay, well then you win." That's simple.
And now our sideboard games. And I don't know if Owen was necessarily preparing for this matchup, but he certainly got no end of action.
Yeah. We are going to cut back to the booth here very quickly for you guys, so we can do our first of many trivia giveaways.
Yes.
And it's very simple. We're going to ask you a question. We're going to ask, and you can tweet the answer to us with the hashtag of SCG Premium. We will select one winner from the people who did it correctly. So it's not a race. It's just about getting the answer correct. And that question is pretty simple this go around for the 3 months premium that we're going to be giving away. And it is in this Jund deck. Well, now most Jund decks, they don't play this card. I would say this card is banned in Modern. Or I think Modern Jund would play it. A instant that you can bring back from the graveyard, I think, is the best hint I can give them, with a certain land in the deck. But if you're able to name that instant that you can bring back from the graveyard that is currently banned in Modern and seeing a whole lot of play today, you will win 3 months of premium.
Yes. So,
too easy?
I don't know how you can make it much easier.
Okay, well,
yeah,
I'll work on that for the next question.
Right.
see what I can do. That's all I have to work on now. Taking a look at the sideboard here, if you're Jacob, as far as improving things, I mean, Submerge is the first step.
He's got a little bit of game here in the sideboard. He's got 3 copies of Submerge. That's good. 3 copies of Blue Elemental Blast. It's not ideal here, but there are some red cards to tag, and he has a bunch of bad cards in his deck to cut. He has He has 1 copy of Umezawa's Jitte, and he has Kira Great Glass Spinner, and that's potentially a huge deal here. Kira is excellent against decks built around spot removal, and I mean, it's only a single copy, but if he draws that, it's actually much harder for Owen to operate. Even with Punishing Fire, it's not easy to operate like that.
There's a funny interaction with Kira now where, it is pretty good against Punishing Fire. It makes it a little bit more difficult. Strange that it doesn't really work very well against Abrupt Decay.
Yes.
That's the weird thing where it's supposed to shut off removal spells, but Abrupt Decay is so good that it doesn't work against that one. But, I mean, nonetheless, he should still be bringing Kira in.
Yeah, absolutely, because all the bolts and all the other stuff covers.
Yeah. As far as Owen and what he can do to improve what is already a favorable matchup.
Look at the sideboard, come on, man.
Yeah, the fourth Punishing Fire over there. You're also going to see 2 copies of Pyroblast, another Abrupt Decay. He could go as far as to bring in 2 copies of Pernicious Deed in case things go wrong for some reason. If he really wants to humiliate Jacob, Choke.
He's got 2 Ensnaring Bridges too. I mean, he's actually Jacob actually can't get out of that unless he's willing to bring in his Hercule's Recalls, which are horrible.
Yeah, horrible recall.
So I mean, Owen gets a cut. I'm not even sure what really there is to even cut. I guess Blood Braids maybe are a little slow here.
Yeah, I mean, Deathrite might be a little bit slow, but I mean, Deathrite's so good, I can't imagine that coming out.
Maybe he doesn't want his hymns. Maybe he doesn't want his Sylvan Library, whatever. We're trimming around the hedges here. He doesn't have really any strictly bad cuts, but he has a ton more gas in his sideboard. I mean, Jacob's sideboard's not bad for the matchup. He's got some play here, but it's nothing compared to what Owen has. And Owen is aware now that they get to see each other's deck lists, which is what happens in the elimination rounds. He's aware of Submerge as well, so he can not play Force into it. He can try to operate just off of Grove for his green mana. And so the information combined with his plethora of awesome cards improves what is already a very good matchup.
It's looking to be I don't want to say 100-0, but it's gonna take a lot for Jacob to win this one. Unfortunately, just feels like a bad pairing. But there's so much punishing Jund in the room today.
Well, once you have Submerge and Blue Elemental Blast and Kira, you have some tools to play the 1-for-1 game.
Yep.
He can actually get off to a good start with Standstill, and he potentially has Submerge to facilitate that. So that's actually an angle afforded to him that gives him a much better game than he had in the first game, certainly. So even though Owen has all of these awesomes and, he's Jacob's cold to Ensnaring Bridge, in some ways the matchup improves for him. His standstills in particular get much better. And since that's already a card he's leaning on to make this matchup at all passable, he at least has a set of draws that he can have to be competitive.
Yeah, and certainly. It's going to be difficult, but not impossible, because again, it is Magic. Anything can happen in the top 8 of a tournament or just any given match. So we'll see if he can muster a good start here. Maybe a mulligan or two from Owen, can turn some things around as well.
Yeah, well, I actually feel like Jacob in the first game, there's almost no shot that he has unless Owen's draw fails somehow. He misses, he's missing mana, or he has to mulligan a bunch, or he gets tagged by multiple wastelands. Things that are in that space. Now Jacob actually has cards and some cohesion that can actually give him a shot here. That said, Owen's still very far ahead, and his sideboard is not helping matters.
And as we do see both players shuffling up here, if you're Jacob, maybe you're hoping for maybe a little bit of luck on your side to turn this around. Again, first step in the right direction, maybe starting with the Vial. Standstill also still going to be quite good here. But again, as you did say, Patrick, he does get to cut out some of the stinkers for some real ones, and that's important.
Yeah, his soft counters are just not well suited for this matchup. He needs his individual draws to be impactful because the game's likely to go long because Owen's going to be removing a bunch of his threats. And it's not really much of a tempo game. He's got to dig his heels in and be able to engineer boards that are tough for Owen to use his removal against. He's got to try to land his standstills. All that stuff really isn't the type of the Daze Spell Pierce type of game that Merfolk traditionally wants to play.
Yep. So we do see Owen going back to his sideboard one more time. I'm going to give a little bit more of a shuffle here. Deliberate with his mechanics.
Yes.
He is.
Even, like I said earlier, in an FMM draft.
Play to win. Got to play to win.
Yeah.
I remember how I was when I was a youngin'.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it bad.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I wanted it bad.
I try to act like they never happened, but...
Oh, we are who we are.
Yeah, once upon a time.
It's okay. 6 and 7.
As leading American philosopher Kesha would say, we are who we are.
That's Kesha with a $sign,
yes.
By the way. Don't disrespect
an
her.
R with an R with the letter R.
The letter R, yeah. She's hip. She's hip and cool.
Yeah. Some pause in the action here. I don't know if Jacob is contemplating mulligan here.
And Owen is going to take him all. He's going to go down to 6. Jacob, yeah, you can see a little bit of a deep breath there. All right, all right.
I'm on play.
It's a good start for me. After
got a little game.
Yeah, crushed game 1. This is a decent start.
Yeah, and crushed even with Punching Fire not showing up until the game had already been determined.
Yeah.
Just bolts and Dark Confidants.
Some 1-for-1s and a Bloodbraid Elf. I mean, this is what makes Jund so powerful and modern. That same sort of strategy.
Yeah.
Your cards just, they're all good cards, and they all do generate card advantage. And they're basically, the best way to look at it is 2 spells in 1.
So Owen draws up a hand of 5 lands, one of which is Grove of the Burn Willows and Lightning Bolt. I'm not sure if this is a hand. Yeah, he's going to keep. I think this is about as bad of a keepable hand as you can have. I would not have mulligan this in Owen's position, but if that Grove is another random land, I think he has to mulligan. But Grove gives him some pretty huge upside.
And so we are going to see a Lord of Atlantis to start here for Jacob. And Owen is going to sacrifice the Wooded Foothills.
It appears that Jacob has Daze and Spell Pierce in his hand. I wonder if the first cards that he cut from his deck were Phantasmal Image, because those are so
they have to go
horrendous.
So fast.
Yeah, but I still feel like he's got 6, 7 good ones to bring in, so I'm a little surprised to see those cards present.
See Owen searching for a Badlands here. Last game we saw him lead out with basics, choosing not to this game. See if he bolts on the end step or if he's just going to take a draw step. And he's just going to take a draw. No reason to run himself into a daze here.
He's just drawn choke. So good on Jacob for having kept his daze in, because he's probably going to tap out on this turn for some threat. It's going to be too tempting for Owen to try to land his choke, and Jacob will be able to cover himself against it.
So we do see Lord of Atlantis die to the Lightning Bolt. Jacob is going to play his third land, which is an island. Let's see which way he's going to lead out here, because I think he does have a Silver Guild up in his hand. But you see him moving past that Coral Helm Commander and a Curse Catcher in his hand. And there's your Curse Catcher as well.
And choke, I believe, used to be kind of dubious against Merfolk because they could operate under Vial.
Yep.
But now with Abrupt Decay as a clean, easy to main deck answer, I think choke becomes much better.
Now we do see a Grove of the Burn Willows, and now we are going to see a Tarmogoyf. Okay, and the hand is double dazed and Spell Pierce, so there is no Silver Gold out there. Jacob going to take a draw step. We find a Lord of Atlantis. All right.
Some action. I mean, this Goyf is 3/4 currently.
Yeah, we do have a 3/4 there.
And Tarmogoyf is, on the low end of cards Owen has in his deck that are good in the matchup, and it's still very good.
Yep. Now we see Coral Helm Commander going to pump up the jam.
Some level up.
One more time.
Yes.
Wondering, am I in the clear? Okay. And here it comes in the air. Cross for 3. And you see Jacob being very careful, keeping up Spell Pierce here, keeping up Double Daze.
It's a flying fish.
Sure, it sure is.
Some creative liberties taken, perhaps. He's going to try to stick choke here. I think that he's not expecting Spell Pierce to still be in the deck, and here it is.
Yeah.
So, just pretty devastating for Owen there. I would not have, if I were in his position, I would not have anticipated that card still being there.
Yep.
And it was excellent, obviously, in that spot.
Now you see Owen attacking here as well. The race is kind of on here. And if the race is on, I do think that this favors Merfolk, because again, Owen is the control deck in this matchup.
Ooh, and there's a Kira.
Great Glass Spinner.
Yeah, if Owen had spent his turn just casting it, this is revisionist history, obviously, but if he had spent his turn just casting Tarmogoyf, I actually think he might be ahead in the race. But he went for choke, which I think is totally defensible there. Yep. It looked like he had a good spot for it, but Jacob had Spell Pierce at the ready, and that was a devastating use of Owen's turn.
You will see Kira Great Glass Spinner here. Going to resolve. Owen draws another Dark Confidant, a card that is typically good, but not great when you are behind. Yeah. And with the flyers in play as well, might be a little bit detrimental to cast those.
Right, it's great in the games where you just have a bunch of bolts and abrupt decays, and you can keep the board clear and have a bunch of gas. But when you're on the back foot like this, it's actually pretty close to uncastable.
So you're going to see another Tarmogoyf here from Owen.
He just has to cast it and hope to get lucky here, because he doesn't really have another route to take. He's got 2 Confidants in his hand, he has to cast them. But
and plenty of good cards from the draw, too.
Yeah.
So Force of Will, the draw step there for Jacob, and that's actually a pretty good draw right now.
Yeah, that's devastating for Owen. Because now even a card like Pernicious Deed doesn't get him out of this.
Yeah. So we're going to see Lord of Atlantis to lead things off. I think the flying fish and the Kira are going to come across here. Yep.
Bang.
Looks like we're on what equates to a 2-turn clock.
Yep.
So let's see what Owen's able to reveal off of Dark Confidant. A Punishing Fire. It's going to go down to 4. Take a draw step for Deathrite Shaman.
Wouldn't be bad under normal circumstances, but of course with Kira in play, Punishing Fire becomes much worse.
Yep. And so you've seen attack with all the guys here. This is representing a lethal attack. 4, 8, 9, 10. Punishing Fire would be points 11 and 12. But I don't think that's the way that's going to play out.
Yeah, I suspect that we're just going to put our Lord of Atlantis in front of Dark Confidant and maybe Chumpa Tarmogoyf, maybe not. Oh, you're just double chumping, okay. This feels pretty risky to me because if Owen has Abrupt Decay, now all of a sudden it's...
Things are much different.
I would have tried to keep the Lord of Atlantis alive and just take the extra hit, I think.
With how much counter magic Jacob has in his hand, I mean, something at the ready to remove to Force of Will, he feels pretty safe from being burnt out. He's just going to pass the turn back. Jacob draws and plays an island. Force of Will dazes the hand, and he says, alright, I'm going to attack. Okay.
Alright, he's going to
shield.
Cure triggers.
He's going to get it back. Shield. Yeah, there's your daze. That's going to do it.
And we're on to game 3.
Yep. So Jacob Montano does win game 2. Owen did take a mulligan there, and as you said, he kept a what is right on the edge of keepable hands with the 5 lands and the lightning bolt.
Yeah, like I said, I think if one of those lands is he has Grove of the Burn Willows in that hand. If that Grove is just a normal land, he has to send that back.
Yeah.
But you've already mulliganed. You have a bolt to stave off some amount of action, and you have Punishing Fire is potentially a huge draw. So I think that keep is fine by Owen, but Jacob's draw was much better that game, and Owen didn't find Punishing Fire quite quickly enough, and so now we're on to a 3rd game.
Now, one card, Patrick, and this might sound a little bit radical, but you did see Owen. He has his 1 choke in the sideboard, and he did bring it in. Choke, to me, I feel like it's a card that is not necessary to win this matchup. I feel like it is obviously good against Merfolk, and if it does resolve, it's going to be very good. But I don't think that we actually need Choke to beat him.
Sure.
So is there like a very, very good reason we sideboarding this card in?
Well, it depends. I mean, I immediately identify, in my opinion at least, he's got Thoughtseize, 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 3 copies of Hinotorak, a Sylvan Library, and 3 copies of Bloodbraid Elf. I'm not thrilled about these cards. Some of them, like Bloodbraid, maybe you want to keep in 1 or 2, but I certainly don't want a bunch of these effects. And the self-damaging of Thoughtseize and Sylvan Library is pretty slow, and him, Jacob can play out his hand reasonably quickly, and all that kind of stuff. Those are cards I would want to ditch, and no, Choke is not as awesome here as it is against certain versions of Blue Control or maybe even Rug, but I still think it's better than cards he has in his 60. So
sure, I mean, I guess I disagree with you on one point. I can't imagine sideboarding out any Bloodbraid Elves in this matchup. If anything, I would want the 4th one. It's just a perfect card for this matchup. It's a 3/2 that has the opportunity to block as there are no islands in play. So when his lords become 3/3s, he can trade with them. He can turn the game around and start being the aggressor in the matchup. And furthermore, it's just an additional card. And when all your cards are actually good, when you do slice out those Thoughtseizes and those Hymns, and your deck is all removal spells or insane creatures, that's all. I think that's exactly what you want.
Well, my fear would be that there's just too much slow stuff. This is assuming that he's brought in Ensnaring Bridge and Pernicious Deed. I would just be concerned that you just have too many expensive hands. You might get exposed to Wasteland if you aren't able to fetch for basic.
Okay.
And so Bloodbraid is definitely the best of the cards I list as being a little suspicious of. But again, I would be concerned about just having too much expensive stuff.
Okay.
Just because so much of his power, and even the power of something like Punishing Fire is predicated on having a lot of mana. His mana is tied up in a lot of good stuff. And is Bloodbraid better than some of the other stuff going on here? I'm not sure. And so if I was looking to shave one more card out, maybe Bloodbraid is where I would go.
Okay.
But you might be right. It might just be too efficient. I can see that could be the case.
As we do see that both players have kept their seven cards, and we are underway here for game number 3. Owen just leads out with a Verdant Catacombs, while Jacob does have a turn 1 Curse Catcher. You see a Pyroblast drawn for the turn by Owen to go along with the Taiga, another Verdant Catacombs in there, a Lightning Bolt. You see a Submerge as well, so... oh, excuse me, not a Submerge, I apologize. That is an Umezawa's cheat tag. How I confuse the two, I have no idea.
And in our other bracket, we have Charbelcher moving on to the semifinals.
Kaboom.
Defeating Omnitel, which I would argue is probably his worst matchup in the top 8. Maybe the Esper Blade's a little bit worse, but certainly one of his tougher matchups. He won 2-0.
Yeah, one of the decks that can really interact, of course, that Omnitel does have Force of Will in his deck, so you do have to hope to dodge that problem. It's by no means an unbeatable card, but didn't look to be much of a problem there as a 2-0 victory relatively quickly.
Yep. So we're seeing a turn 2 Mutavault and Silvergill Adept from Jacob, revealing a Curse Catcher. Owen searching up some basics.
And no wastelands here, please. Well, maybe we'll search up a Badland. Maybe we'll see a Lightning Bolt here.
So we're going to see an end of turn Pyroblast, it looks like. Again, trying to be conscious of days as much as possible. That's going to resolve, and we've just drawn Punishing Fire. I do not believe we have the corresponding Grove of the Burn Wills just yet, but still another excellent draw. Just more spot removal to give him time to set up his Bloodbraid Elves and his Umezawa's GT.
That's all you need. You just want to buy as much time as possible. You just turn your deck into just all removal spells, solid creatures in Tarmogoyf and Deathrite Shaman, Dark Confidant being able to fuel things here. Your card quality is just so much higher. The longer the game goes, the more it favors you.
Yep. So Owen is going to use a Punishing Fire here on this Curse Catcher. It's not so much that this Curse Catcher is threatening, but it's just that Owen has so much action in his hand that he needs to cast something.
Yeah.
Just wants to be efficient. And what you're seeing right now is a subtle weakness of Merfolk is when it doesn't have Vial, it's actually kind of challenging to cast your spells because you have double blue requirements and only 12 islands.
And a card that I was considering sideboarding out as I didn't find it to be necessary is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, this is a good spot for choke.
Yep. And that is going to resolve.
Now Jacob basically either needs to find an Aether Vial or more Mutavaults quickly.
Yep. And Silvergill Adept is neither of those things.
Yes.
So in for one with the Curse Catcher. Verdant Catacombs the draw step here.
And this is where things get out of control now,
Yep.
as we're going to be able to stick a Bloodbraid Elf.
And you see Owen, again, he played in a day's last turn with the choke, because I think he was perfectly fine with that getting choked. That getting dazed. That's perfectly fine. As we're going to see either Bloodbraid Elf, you could see Liliana this turn, but yeah, I'm going to spin the wheel. And there's a Lightning Bolt. Let's go ahead and shoot that down. Now Bloodbraid is going to come across. We're going to see it looks like a Dismember.
Dismember, yeah. But these are not exchanges that correlate to Jacob winning the game.
Yeah, you put it best, basically.
Yeah. Well, he drew another Mutavault, which is among his better draws.
Come across for 2, put Owen down to 13.
Ideally, he would find a Vial here, so he could actually start casting his spells in his hand. And we know Owen has no end of answers to a Mutavault, but
yeah.
It's at least a little bit. He at least gets to function a little bit here.
You see the draw is a Tarmogoyf here. So that'll put a stop to the Mutavault shenanigans for now. You see Umezawa's GT, the other card there in Owen's hand. He can cast this now, but it looks like he is again going to try to play around Daze.
Yeah, Daze is especially bad to play into because it also gives Owen blue mana. Or sorry, Jacob rather, blue mana.
Checking in on another match very quickly, as you do see a Relic of Progenitus hit play there for Jacob. Brian Braun-Duan and Brian Plattenberg tied up at 1-1, going to game 3.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, bringing in Relic's fine, obviously, because of Tarmogoyf and Punishing Fire, but I just, based on the cards we've seen, like Forest and Daze, he's got a Phantasmal Image in his hand. I just have no idea how he made room for all the cards he's boarded in.
Yeah, that really is a good question, one that I can't answer. I would not have been surprised if Dismember got sideboarded out, but that's clearly still in.
Yeah.
And we saw Spell Pierce in as well.
Yeah, I think Dismember is fine to leave in. And so Tarmogoyf in.
What you see there is he's just going to cast Umezawa's GT. And doesn't equip it. Potentially playing around maybe another Dismember or something of that nature, but you're going to see Relic of Progenitus remove everything, and now Owen can sacrifice the fetch land to actually make Tarmogoyf have relevant power.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised we didn't we didn't equip the JIT because we have Wooded Foothills. So even if Jacob were to sack the Relic to try to get the Tarmogoyf to 0 power, we could just sack the Foothills and go up to 1.
Okay. I was wondering about that island being untapped.
Sorry, my friend, but you are being choked.
Yes. Never again. Here comes the Mutavault, and there goes a Lightning Bolt. And there's a third Mutavault. And I think this time we're going to see probably Tarmogoyf suit up here, as you do see Grove of the Burn Willows. And here comes the Tarmogoyf. It is currently a 2-3. There is an instant and a land in the old graveyard. But 2 Umazawa Chite counters here. And now we're in that situation here for Jacob where I'm not quite sure how he gets out of it.
Yeah. Jacob, perhaps a little too young to gotten to experience the hateful sideboard cards Wizards used to print a couple, during Tempest and those eras, but he's getting that experience now.
Yeah. Playing against Choke is no fun for anyone.
Yeah. The old Choke Boil Perish cycle.
Yeah.
Dread of Night.
Don't forget about Flash Fires either.
Oh,
I know it wasn't then. I know it wasn't then, but I always think of that one. Quite the hate card.
Chill, Choke, Boil.
Chill. Yes.
Perish, Dread of Night.
Loads of fun all those cards are. You see Bloodbraid off the draw step here for Owen. See if he wants to turn up the heat at all, and he does.
Yeah.
See what he does. Reveal Dark Confidence. Sure, not bad.
He's so far ahead that basically his only bad reveal is Pyroblast. And there's a concession.
Yeah, and there's just a concession. As Jacob can just see the writing on the wall, I'm not going to be able to beat a active Umazawa Chite. So Owen Laufersweiler, with Punishing Jund, wins 2-1 over Jacob Montano, and a matchup I think that Owen would say is very good for him, and Jacob would say is pretty poor.
Yeah. I mean, you can see Jacob's body language while they were shuffling before game 1. He knew that he was in some trouble.
And a quick report there. From the floor, Brian Braun to 1. We just updated. It was 1-1. It is now 2-1. Brian Braun to 1. Moving on.